So what is your Lo-debar? Everyone is broken in some shape or form. Some you see, some you don't see. But just because you don't see it with your eyes does not mean it doesn't exist. Have you ever met someone who is beautiful and well put together on the outside, but when you interact with them, they're mean and sour on the inside? And then when they're done with you, you feel like you want to go home and just take a bath in Joy detergent. Have you ever felt that way? That's a person who is broken. That's someone living in Lo-debar. And Lo-debar can be painful, but it's not all bad. There's some lessons to learn while we're in Lo-debar. Lo-debar did not kill Mephibosheth. He survived it. Lo-debar did not kill me. I'm still here. I survived it. Lo-debar builds our character. It helps us to be humble. It teaches patience and many other qualities. Lo-debar is that place that prepares us for the palace, because God does not leave us there. He has a plan. Deuteronomy 31 verse 8, it says, "He will not leave you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed." Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declare the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give hope and a future." Romans 8 verse 28 says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." 1 Corinthians 2 says, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no mind has imagined what God has prepared for those who love him." God has great plans for you. He's moving you out of Lo-debar today. You have to believe that. Now, it's important to know that Mephibosheth was royal, but he wasn't living like one. He was the grandson of a king, but he was living like a pauper. He considered himself to be worthless as a dead dog, when he should have been enjoying all the privileges of a royal. So let's not be crippled by a fall that comes at the result of someone else's mistakes, fear, or future. Just be reminded that you will always have a place at the table of the King of Kings. You're more valuable than you realize. So hold on tight to what God says about you. In 1 Peter 2 verse 9, he says, "But you're a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special position, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." And my third point is, God is a covenant keeper. So why did David want to show kindness to Saul's family? David wanting to show kindness to Mephibosheth was him keeping his covenant that he made with Jonathan. He had promised to show loyalty to Jonathan's family. And David had promised Jonathan that he would protect his family. David's kindness was an act of covenant faithfulness. David teaches us that we should keep our word, and keeping our word is a part of having integrity. God is a covenant keeper, and he also wants us to keep our covenant with him. When David became king, his promise was to show steadfast love for Jonathan's household forever. That means that his kindness to Mephibosheth was not an option for David. He was honor-bound to this by his early covenant with Jonathan. Long before Mephibosheth was born, Jonathan and David had a covenant. So God already had a way out of Lo-debar for Mephibosheth. Just as how God had a plan for Mephibosheth out of Lo-debar, God also has a way of escape for you out of your Lo-debar, because he's a God that keeps his word. Deuteronomy 7 verse 9 says, "Know therefore that the Lord your God, the faithful God who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. He's a covenant keeper. In David's display of God's kindness to Mephibosheth, we see a great picture of God's kindness to us in Christ Jesus. Mephibosheth had nothing to earn his grandfather's estate, as he had done nothing to earn his grandfather's estate. It rightly belonged to David, and he had no obligation to give anyone this legacy, especially someone from Saul's household. Likewise, we have nothing to deserve God's kindness to us in Christ. Grace was given to Mephibosheth, not because of anything he had done, but because of who he is, Jonathan's son, because of his father's love. The same it is for us. Because of God's grace, because of what Jesus did for us on the cross, we have restoration, identity, inheritance, and fellowship. There is a place for you at the King's table because of his love.